We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Don't Say Gay seems to be unstoppable in Florida. The next target may be LGBTQ plus nonprofits and businesses.
The division within the LGBTQ plus community over the Israeli-Palestine war has to end. But can that happen?
The holiday season begins with an expulsion. We can finally bid farewell to George Santos.
Hypocrisy at its best. Moms for Liberty co-founder Bridget Ziegler was allegedly in a queer throuple. The Putin government's attitude towards the LGBTQ plus community in Russia reminds people of the dark era during Hitler's Germany.
Good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, December 4th, 2023, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, FayWhat! And this evening we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a non-profit 501c3, the company in the same model of the PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Our magazine is celebrating 39 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader communities.
That's right. And let's begin by welcoming anchor Kal Gajraj. Kal is a first-generation Muslim American, an award-winning communications executive and diversity officer, a professor, and an advisory board member for the University of South Florida's College of Business. Welcome back, bestie. How you doing, puppy?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see everyone.
Next up, let's welcome anchor Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the late 90s and now serves on the Outshine Film Festival's board of directors. Welcome back, Dino. How's your mom?
She's good. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thanks for asking.
Tell her I said hi.
She loves you.
Does she really?
She does.
Oh, I never had somebody tell me that. My mom loves you like I've never heard that.
She does. She does.
Moms love you.
Selena, moms love FayWhat. I love it. Next up, let's welcome DJ Eric Restivo. DJ Eric is he's a well-known from his podcast, Listen Sweetie, as well from his work as DJ in clubs across the country, including WeHo and right here at Hamburger Mary's and beyond. You can also catch DJ Eric Restivo in bed with me on the FayWhat show on occasion when he has time, when he's not there gallivanting through all of the world.
And it's the best bed to jump in, honestly. It really is. It's so comfortable. Thank you for having me back.
We love having you, honey. Let's welcome next anchor, Dr. Julio Capo, Jr., board member of the Stonewall National Museum and Archives and a history professor at Florida International University. He's also an author of one book.
Just one book.
That's all it's
I'm working on another one.
and often writes for the Washington
What a weird
Post.
way of saying it.
I know, right? It's weird because we've been your Welcome to Fairyland is an incredible book.
Thank
okay,
you.
okay. And,
He is the
he's written more than one book. We're gonna actually
No,
publish
I haven't. I've only written one book.
we're gonna publish his journal next, and it's gonna be fantastic.
Hi, everyone.
It's a very important book, Julio.
Super important, you guys.
It took like his life to do that one
it earned
book.
me tenure and another. Anyway.
See, it's a very important
We're being really weird. I love this. It's a history of queer Miami. Good to be here, guys.
It's important, and we love you.
I love you guys.
Thank you for being so queer. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America, we're diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Monday, December 4th, 2023. Let's begin by queering up South Florida and Florida. New Florida Don't Say Gay bill moves beyond schools and could cripple LGBTQ plus nonprofits. Florida gay rights organizations are slamming a proposed bill that they say would cripple LGBTQ plus nonprofit groups in Florida. Republican State Representative Ryan Chamberlain filed HB 599 that would prevent nonprofit groups or any employers who receive state funding from requiring training on sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression.
If enacted in the upcoming Florida session, it will be a major expansion from the initial focus on schools in the Parental Rights in Education Act, called the Don't Say Gay bill, law by critics. Chamberlain said the legislation was needed to protect Florida's non-profit workers, like what we have seen in Florida from DeSantis in the last 2 years. This new legislation could have a devastating domino effect on Florida LGBTQ+.
The bill was seen by LGBTQ plus nonprofit groups as a major threat to their vast existence and survival. Todd Delmay, executive director of Miami Safe, said, quote, "It would be devastating to organizations like ours. It could make very difficult ones, having done for 30 years protecting, promoting, and defending equality for LGBTQ plus people in Florida. But that's the point. It's primarily meant to sow division and fear," end quote.
Delmay said his group receives little direct state funding, but he fears the bill could be used as a way to place restrictions even on local funding. Delmay said, quote, "They would argue that state funds were being used improperly and ultimately restrict or end local governments from making their own decisions," end quote. Delmay said, quote, "This would have a devastating domino effect on our work," end quote. He added that other donors may, quote, overreact, end quote, and start to worry whether they should stop donating to these organizations. Robert Boo, the executive director of one of America's largest Pride centers, Wilton Manors-based Pride Center at Equality Park, said that the state money the group receives through the Department of Health is, quote, "not a huge component of our funding, but it would impact us absolutely. And some organizations are totally dependent on government funding." That's an end quote. He said his group will fight against the bill, including in court, if it too becomes law. Boo added then, quote, "Trying to prevent us from doing any cultural proficiency training in the LGBTQ community, it's absolutely ridiculous."
Jamie Henkel, PFLAG National Interim Director of Learning and Inclusion, raised a similar alarm on targeting LGBTQ plus nonprofits. PFLAG has 18 chapters in Florida and partners with businesses through its Straight for Equality program. Henkel said it demonstrate a fundamental misunderstanding of economics, and Floridians should be concerned. Companies know that inclusive benefits, programs, and policies are good for businesses, employees, and communities, with so many issues to focus on and try to solve. HB 599 is a distraction and a dangerous one at that, end quote.
The bill includes sweeping sections that limit personal titles, pronouns, and protection for, quote, "deeply held religious or biology-based beliefs, including a belief in traditional or biblical views of sexuality and marriage, or disagreement with gender ideology," end quote.
Carlos Guillermo Smith, a senior policy advisor for Equality Florida and running for state senate, criticized Chamberlain's reasoning. Quote, "I've already read some of his justification for bringing the bill forward about needing to protect workers and some other nonsense. But Florida workers don't need protection from pronouns or inclusive work environments. They need better wages and lower costs to be able to afford living here," end quote.
The top criticism on the bill was on being vague. Professor Koger said, quote, "Vagueness is a choice. Are they trying to chill behavior and speech without actually banning it? It makes it harder for citizens and businesses and nonprofits to navigate the legal environment," end quote. Equality Florida Guillermo Smith provided a chilling, pessimistic warning to the entire LGBTQ plus community by saying, quote, voters across the political spectrum are exhausted by DeSantis and his culture wars. It's why his own standing has fallen here in the state of Florida after being reelected by 19 percentage points. But culture wars are all Florida Republicans have. Now they're extending this nonsense into private workplaces and nonprofit charities. Where will it end? End quote. You know, I mean, this bill is just completely crazy. And I have to stand with Carlos Guillermo Smith, who I love, okay? I love this man. He has sat at this table with us and done Queer News Tonight, and he's an exemplary specimen of a human, okay? He don't take no shit. He doesn't take no BS, and he's out there fighting for us. Even when sometimes everything is against him, he continues to fight, right? But I'm with him when it comes to that. There's another thing that they want. Hey, look over here. And don't worry about the fact that, you know, your insurance on your house has doubled, right? And that you can't find affordable rental places here. And that immigration is a hot mess here in Florida as well. That our seniors aren't being taken care of. Don't worry about that. Let's look at this over here, right? And this is basically what's happening. All the nonprofits that we work with and for, right? Everybody at this table helps a nonprofit or another. They would all be affected by it, okay? From the AIDS Museum to SunServe to TransSocial, everybody uses a little bit of, of government funding to help them get across. It's not easy doing what they do. SunServe serves children to elders. From 7-year-olds to 99-year-olds, okay? And it takes money to do all that, okay? And they work really hard to get that money. And now they've got to worry about this being a possibility that they might snatch the money back for them not doing things how this Don't Say Gay bill wants them to do.
And thank you for that. And two things I want to add. I mean, there's 1,000 things I want to add, but because I got thoughts, girl. But and I have to say, one of the reasons, if you might have noticed that my face a blank, I was reading the quote and I was dismayed. Like that, it's like I'm not even kidding. May God strike me down if I'm even slightly exact. I was reading the quote over and over in my head. The idea that this is to protect workers. When people are saying what they're saying, you have to actually take them at their word. If you are protecting workers, if that's really what you were trying to do, why are you trying to undo our labor unions? Why? I mean, like, that's really protecting laborers, right? That's workers. Our collective bargaining agreements. Like, I mean, that's not what protecting workers look like. It doesn't mean, like, taking trans people out of spaces where they belong and making them feel unsafe. Like, that is, like, the preposterousness of...
That's completely the opposite of wanting to help.
But they can frame it in ways like when you say parental rights, that's not parental rights. That's actual abuse. Like, I mean, like it's the kind of reframing of all these different things. Like, and this is an old playbook, like an old, like Anita Bryant did the same thing. Like, this is not new. But when people are telling you what they're, listen, right? That is like, make sure that don't listen to the kind of propaganda around it, but what is actually happening. The kind of rescinding of these. And I'll also note, it's the state's responsibility to take care of all of us. That's what we pay taxes for, right? Like, so that is when we have these services that are provided to us, it's not like you didn't pay for them, right?
In some way, shape, or form, for sure.
So, I mean, just so we know, this is not a giveaway. This is not these are services for which we are all, right? We need government help sometimes, right? Like, that is something that we do.
This is what fascists do. This is what they do. That's the book. I mean, they start with, let's protect our children. Let's protect the innocent of our children.
A major concern.
Right, a major concern. And then this thing starts evolving from there. It's happening in Russia, it happened in Germany when the Nazis. That's how it started. They isolate a group, they target that group and start making things uncomfortable. And then suddenly, we just create laws to, separate them.
And we have so many, great organizations that support the LGBTQ plus community. And this is just part of that culture war where they're going after the funding. So if you cut the funding for these organizations and they're not able to support the community at large. And that puts a lot of fears on a lot of the corporations who also fund a lot of these organizations. So it's like, what happens to the big corporate sponsors like Bacardi and, those
and
big,
Soli and all these
that
places
sponsors Pride and sponsors SunServe and all of these big organizations. JetBlue is a huge sponsor, for the Pride Center. So what happens to those corporate sponsors then?
Also, just now, as a historian, Florida was once at the kind of peak, like at the kind of ahead of the game in diversity training.
Really? Really?
In the 70s and 80s, it was kind of known as the Miami model. Like that is like, and there's this great.
So we were woke before the woke.
Essentially, right? There's this great historian, Catherine Moss, who teaches at FIU. Hey, Katie, who has written incredible work about this. But that is like. There's a backlash often. Like we see these kind of things comes in wave. We need to make sure this doesn't last, right? That is like there was a backlash immediately to bilingualism in Miami, in parts of Florida. Like that is like we always see this kind of backlash. So the reason I bring that up is because these kinds of things, when passed, can also be undone. And I want to make sure that we know that these things can also it's important to mobilize and make sure that we understand that you don't represent the majority.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, most people show very clearly that this is not representative of what most people want.
Yeah, but people are moving out of Florida
and people are moving out of
this
Florida.
thing.
Yeah,
but
people are also moving from California to Florida. Yeah. Like me. I moved from California to Florida a year ago. Not afraid of
But not because of DeSantis, right?
Well, DeSantis is here, but I didn't move from California because of Newsom.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
I wasn't fleeing
wokeness.
But I also remember the days when Florida was a blue state. Like it wasn't always a red state. It was
purple
quite a bit. So I think that DeSantis is probably like so in his mind afraid of that ever happening. That it's the distraction. It's the build on fear and go from there.
I don't think he feels emotions.
No.
Except I don't think he's a human. So,
when you go back and watch the Republican debate, please text me because I want to just get your feedback from him. He was crazy.
Dino, what's next,
All
my
right.
friend?
Let's square up gay culture. Gay on gay hate over Gaza war flares across social media and South Florida nonprofit. The ongoing Israeli-Palestine conflict has created a rift between the LGBTQ plus community of South Florida and across the country. This division can be seen on social media platforms like Reddit. One user recently posted on the Gay Jews forums about being permanently banned from LGBT for asking not to use the word genocide responsibly and to show any empathy for the Jewish victims. He asked about the possibility of experiencing the highest degree of anti-Semitism within the LGBTQ community. Other Reddit users reacted to the post. One said, quote, "Too bad we Jews are excluded from this intersectionality, as we are from all anti-racist circles," end quote. Another post said, quote, "The LGBT community has always been open to all unless you're Jewish, but maybe they'll accept you if you're a good Jew who self-flagellates and condemns other Jews," end quote. On the other hand, the Aqua Foundation for Women's executive director faced backlash for showing support for Palestine and asking for a ceasefire in Gaza. Mateo Ventura Brewer posted on his personal Instagram account on November 21st, including hashtag from the river to the sea. On November 28, he posted an apology for the offense caused by the alleged anti-Semitic hashtag. Brewer posted a clarification for his use of the hashtag as an aspirational call for freedom, human rights, and peaceful coexistence, end quote. However, not everyone was pleased with the clarification. For one, drag artist and Aqua scholar Bad Papi canceled the performance at the Aqua Affair. I mean, where can I start? This is so sensitive, and obviously, we all have an opinion about it, but I do think that there is a lot to be said that, and to make the separation about that we can be against the state, the government of Israel and their very extreme right views. That is different from anti-Semitism. Yeah. So a lot of that get confused and thrown together.
I think so too.
And then, we could be, and in this show, we have, cover a lot of the views and positions of Netanyahu and his right-wing extremist government. Yeah. And we can be opposed to that. I don't support, obviously, anti-Semitism, but we can be against the policies of that government and what's happening in Palestine also, and the actions of his government as a response to his irresponsibility before this conflict started, and the negligence and not paying attention to what's happening in Gaza, and then letting this happen with all the vast intelligence that the Israeli army has and all the vast resources they have, and then somehow they missed on this because of all his power grabbing that he got going on in Israel. So we can condemn, the government and being, not anti-Semitic, because I don't want to be anti-Semitic.
Of course, I don't think nobody at this table wants to be.
So, but so let's not confuse the two.
Yeah.
And I think it's also part of this social media dilemma that we find ourselves in, because now all of a sudden, when something happens, an event happens, everyone's ready to take a side.
Yes.
Everyone's always ready, whether it's Black Lives Matter or whether it's, if you stand with Israel or, doesn't matter the cases. Everyone, as soon as something happens, everyone's quick to change their profile photo to support whatever that cause is. And
without knowing what that means.
Without knowing what it means. And it's unfortunately with this situation that's going on, there's a lot of people who took a stand who don't really understand what's really happening, that don't really has looked into, the history, that has existed, that, Hamas is not a representation of Palestine. There's people in Palestine that are suffering, just as well as the fact that, Israel has a right to defend itself, but there's a lot of, the lines are blurred and people aren't understanding the history or knowing what's going on.
And I think that's kind of what happened to Mateo, unfortunately. You know what I mean? He used the hashtag that, in his mind, he was asking for human rights and peaceful existence, right? That's not genocide through to Jews, So it breaks my heart that I don't think he did it willingly. He didn't want to hurt somebody.
Right.
And in the process, unfortunately, he hurt people. And I don't think that, I think knowing Mateo personally, a lot of us do know him. I think that he would go to each person and apologize. That's just the kind of person he is, and he used a hashtag that he shouldn't have used, that, like you, do your research. We live in these times that you can't just take a side to take a side,
If we ever could, meaning that is I think social media, no doubt, is a big part of this, but also this is a situation many, many, many years in the making, and the circumstances that we all are seeing unfold. It's going to take a really nuanced approach, a really nuanced position. It defies easy social media, 100 whatever characters, right? It requires a thesis paper to kind of give the nuances of what these things, it's not black and white.
It's not cut and dry. It's so convoluted. There's so much to it.
And that is to say, you could take, that is people, there are large questions, philosophical and ethical and the like, right? That is, but that is that it's not as simple as a kind of a quick tweet or something, even as some things, right? Like liberation is. And there are things in which we all, some of these statements that you read, Dino, here, there are points of connection and that's what we need more of. And that's what I want to point out is I think it's important we all speak to one another, right? That even if there's points of disagreement and points of, that we are in conversation with one another, so we continue to learn from each other. When there's moments of hurt and that there's healing, right? That is part of growth is healing, and that there's, we need more conversation to move us forward. That is there's no, there's going to be ignorance that can be learned from, that there's space for growth among all of us, that we all, it's such a difficult situation and so many people are hurting. It's important for us to kind of always stay on the pulse of how this is affecting.
Right. And we also have to understand that, that even the Jewish community, the Israelis in Israel, they are not, it's like Latinos, we're not all the same. We have different opinions. A lot of people support what's going on and a lot of people are against what's going on. They don't want that. So we have to understand that, obviously we need to be considerate also and be mindful of what we post and how, because sometimes we don't research and then, express something that you didn't mean to.
That you didn't mean to. Okay. Again, we're human beings, and it's great that in LGBTQ we try to stay teachable. We try to keep evolving, right? And this is a teaching. This is a possibility to learn for a lot of us. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with grabbing somebody that is Jewish in your community that you know and love and say, hey, can we have a conversation, you and me? Because I don't know how to navigate around this, and I don't want to do the wrong thing. You might get what you need, you might not. But it starts the conversation that you're talking about. Instead of staying quiet because you don't want to hurt anybody, so I'm not going to say anything. Right.
And no position is a position, right? That is, and that's not right either, right?
I
would say for sure that's not right. That is to to stand in community is so important, and what community means is going to mean something very different for a bunch of different people, right? That is like, but I think at the center, as so many people noted here, liberation can look a lot of different ways, and we have a lot of work to do to find what that can mean, to find spaces for people to live as happy as possible, fulfilled lives.
Thank you, Doctor.
Next, let's queer up politics. George Santos' fabulous, no more, as Un-Lustrious 331-day queer career in Congress ends. In a momentous decision, the U.S. House of Representatives voted Friday morning to expel Republican Representative George Santos of New York, making a rare and significant event in congressional history. Since his election, Santos, embroiled in a series of controversies and caught in a seamlessly endless web of lies, becomes the sixth member to be expelled from the House. The expulsion follows a detailed investigation by the House Ethics Committee, which uncovered extensive evidence of alleged misconduct, including campaign finance violations and misrepresentation of Santos's background. The report laid bare a series of ethical breaches and set the stage for Friday's decisive vote, with 311 votes in favor and 114 opposed to his ouster. Santos's fate was sealed. The decision is expected to have profound implications for the political climate, particularly for the Republican Party, which has faced internal division over handling the Santos controversy. As the news broke, reactions began pouring in from various political figures and constituents reflecting the wide range of public opinion on this issue. Gay Democratic Representative Robert Garcia, who has been pushing for Santos's expulsion for the months, expressed his satisfaction by posting on X. Human Rights Campaign National Press Secretary Brandon Wolf celebrated the decision too. You know, I was really happy to see the outcome of this, because I think that the rhetoric that we've all been accustomed to since Trump has become president has given birth to an entirely new generation of politicians, such as George Santos. You know,
Welcome, George.
Right. You know, so, and the GOP, I think they really don't care who they elect in office, just as long as they're a Republican and just as long as they're putting whatever their party needs on the line and getting their bills passed. It could be Mickey Mouse. They don't, you know, they don't care who it is. So that's why, you know, people like George Santos got elected, because he was a Republican candidate.
And keeping him. And by keeping him.
And defending.
They made a conscious
decision to keeping him for numbers.
Yeah, that's it. Just for his vote.
Because Kevin McCarthy could have just supported that earlier and avoid some of this damage. They let it go. They continue. I mean, he had almost a year in the position, and they let it go. I mean, this has been a it was already bad for them. This year has been awful for them in the House. I mean, it's been crazy, and it's because of that. They have no backbone. A lot of them probably oppose him because he was a scammer and a liar, and everybody
but what
knew.
A mess! Come on,
nobody did anything about it.
He lost people in 9/11, right? He said he was. I think he even said he was Jewish. Like, he said that he was so many different things. He started a GoFundMe for a dog that he doesn't own. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, no, I don't mess with the dogs.
You don't mess with the dogs. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be a little, like, not devil's advocate, because if I never hear from this girl again, I'll be very happy. But, you know, the difference between him and, quite frankly, some other members of Congress who belong to a particular party, the GOP, is that he got caught.
Say your name.
Right? Like, that is his lies got fact checked, and, like, I mean, and I'm not saying, like, but that is, like, I mean, I get that they're particularly egregious and, like, really cartoonish, like, and, like, they're like very, for real. But in some ways, right, like, I'm not entirely certain, and this is the part I feel a little like uncomfortable with my own self saying it out loud. I'm not certain this is going to be terrible for the GOP. I actually think
they might get someone worse in there.
Or they're really good at kind of massaging these kinds of things often to their advantage.
But they've been trying to massage this guy for the last year, Julio, and they just can't.
Yeah. Okay?
The reality is that George Santos needs to go find a reality show and join Sean Sunset and say you invented reality and that you're Persian, okay? And go and do that, and that's it.
He comes from Long Island. I mean, come on, people. Come on, people. I mean, well, they should know better. No, but they should know better. Now that they have a chance, they have a chance now to correct their mistake.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
They have a big opportunity to correct this mistake.
This is what I mean, will they?
Will
and
they?
like the question is like, I mean, it's a drama. This is like a Housewives. Like, I mean, I don't know what it's like. It's preposterous.
Throw tables.
It's like reality
one
TV.
Step down. One step down from all that.
One step up.
Right? Well, we'll see. Let's see where George Santos ends up. Okay, I'm telling you, I think he'll do a reality.
Let us know, George. Let us
Please,
know.
girl,
All right,
sit
next,
down.
let's queer up education. Hypocrisy as Moms for Liberty co-founder alleged to be in a queer throuple. Wouldn't it be ironic if the woman who led an ultra-conservative movement in Florida education that sought to put gays back in the closet was having a long-term three-way lesbian relationship with the lover she shared with her husband, the state's GOP chairman? That's the allegation being made about Bridget Ziegler, co-founder of far-right Moms for Liberty, and a Sarasota school board member by an unnamed woman accusing Christian Ziegler of rape and sexual battery. Hypocrisy on steroids, if true. The crusading ideologue who demanded private Christian school style more in public schools from grades K through 12 when high school students are either close to or already adults is now facing the ultimate scrutiny of her sex life. According to a laboriously eradicated Sarasota police report released to media, Kristen Ziegler is under an active criminal investigation. He's accused of going to the woman's house without Bridget on October 2nd and raping her. His wife isn't facing any charges, but in the context of the investigation, the woman revealed to the police officer and the investigating detective her long-running three-way sex life with the couple. The woman's allegations also include the claim that sex tapes were being made. Wow, where do we start?
Where do we begin? Start unpacking that. Like,
Yeah, I'm like into this.
Thank you.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Thank you.
Where do we start? I mean, it's always the people who are trying to push other beliefs or strong beliefs on people who may not see eye to eye with them that always have a little bit in their closet, right?
Right.
And this is allegedly what is happening here. So
No, it's true. Okay, there's a couple of things going on here, obviously, with this story, all right? So Miss Bridget Ziegler, right, talking all that mad crap, right? And Moms for Liberty, let's save our children is a big old dyke.
Which is
right?
insane, by the way. Moms for Liberty. If you've ever seen like it's crazy.
It's crazy. But Moms for Liberty, now they're in 48 different states.
Yeah, they have
Now, just
chapters
to let you know,
everywhere.
okay, there's chapters everywhere,
And
okay?
it started here in Florida.
So this woman being, a white cisgender woman, right, pretty to look at, right, people are listening to her, and behind closed doors, she's having a three-way with another woman, and her husband. That's one. Then we're going to unpack the fact that her husband is a rapist. Okay? Allegedly,
you.
excuse me. Allegedly, all right? The reality is that he had sex with his wife, and this woman wanted the woman by herself without his own wife, went over there and allegedly, right, sexually assaulted her and raped her. This is on the police report. I'm not saying
allegedly
okay?
October 2nd.
Okay, allegedly October 2nd. And then, so with what face does this woman come back out and represent Moms for Liberty? Do you think she will?
And him.
And
him. He's a GOP chairman in the state of Florida. These people have some nerve. I mean, seriously, the things that happen in Florida, no wonder people are laughing at us around the country.
Is it going to be like they're going to pretend that it didn't happen? Or
Yes.
how are we going to...
Well, that's what they're because they're probably not covering this on Fox News.
No, nobody else is talking about
so
it.
they're going to sweep it under the rug, and if it's not covered, they don't know about it.
And it didn't happen.
We're talking about it here,
Share
people.
this show.
There's a lot. I think the story's a lot, and there's so much to unpack. It's like a big onion because also the embroilment with rape charges make this also very complicated. That is like we're not making light of the kind of
very against the law.
And battery,
her being an asshole,
right? And
part of Moms for Liberty is one thing,
right. So there's layer upon layer. There's like, I mean, the way that it's largely framed as kind of being like in a three-way relationship. There's that component of it, and then there's also physical assault and rape. rape. So like there's lots of things here. Also, you know what? I don't know how much. There's this really great documentary that came out last year. God forbid, did you watch this? It's about the Jerry Falwell Jr.
Yes,
scandal.
I saw it with the pool guy.
With the pool
at
guy
Fall in
from
Blue
Miami.
in Miami
From
Beach.
Miami,
I saw
right.
it.
And there was something similar about this kind of three-way relationship that they were having with this young Cuban American man from Miami. And this whole time, right, like the kind of, his father was the founder of Moral Majority. Like the kind of, this is not an uncommon, great documentary by the way.
See it. When you hear the name Falwell, your hair at the back of your neck stands up because you know how much he hates us,
And
there's a lot. I feel like I have no words. She's also tired. But like, there's just like, there's so much here. And come on, just be honest.
Own it. Own up to it. But she won't. But why? Or him either.
I checked their Facebook pages today, both.
Well, are they going to be like relationship complicated?
Yeah, did they change their status?
No, I mean, it's the family picture.
Claro.
Perfect.
The Christmas family.
Yeah, it's just like perfection,
Barbie and Ken and the kids, all perfect for the holidays.
Yes. It's
Wow. All right, Julio.
Now
What's
let's
next?
queer up the world view. Overnight Moscow police raids in gay spaces have begun reminding us of Germany in 1939. Russian security forces raided gay clubs and bars across Moscow Friday night, less than 48 hours after the country's top court banned what it called the, quote, global LGBTQ plus movement, end quote, as an extremist organization. The rise of hatred among Russian politicians towards the LGBTQ plus community was made visible in 2013 when the Kremlin adopted the first legislation restricting LGBTQ plus rights, known as the Gay Propaganda Law, banning any public endorsement of, quote, non-traditional sexual relations among minors. In 2020, constitutional reforms pushed through by Putin to extend his rule by 2 more terms also included a provision to outlaw same-sex marriage. After sending troops into the Ukraine in 2022, the Kremlin ramped up a campaign against what it called the West's degrading influence. Rights advocates saw it as an attempt to legitimize the war. That same year, a law was passed banning propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations among adults, also effectively outlawing any public endorsement of LGBTQ plus people. However, Russian authorities still reject accusations of LGBTQ plus discrimination. Earlier this month, Russian media quoted Deputy Justice Minister Andrei Lozhinov as saying that the rights of LGBT people in Russia are protected legally. He was presenting a report on human rights in Russia to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, arguing that restraining public demonstration of non-traditional sexual relationships or preferences is not a form of censure for them. I feel like I keep on saying this, I sound like a broken record, but a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
That's a lot of layers. And truth be told, as I was reading that, the first thing that comes to mind is kind of the story we read earlier, right? That is like about kind of when people are telling you who they are, listen.
Yeah.
The kind of reframing of this is like, no, we're protecting LGBTQ people. Then where are the protections for LGBTQ people, right? Like, how are you not? Of course that's censure. Of course that's criminalization. Of course, like that's what that means, right? Like literally finding spaces to remove people from active participation in any kind of political sphere, in any kind of social sphere or cultural sphere, is the removal of them from the citizenry, right? Like that's exactly what's happening here on every level. I like how the story covered it from political, from marriage to cultural citizenship. There's just so multiple like attacks here on LGBTQ people that's been at this point many decades in the making. And there's right? Like we have to keep a pressure on what's happening here to make sure, right, that people are protected and have avenues for their protection.
This is when you look at the timeline here in the story. When he started this in 2013, I remember the raids of the clubs in Moscow.
Oh my God.
I was going to Russia at that time for work, so I was going to Moscow and St. Petersburg.
You were a secret agent. I love it, Dino.
I used to go to the gay clubs. I used to go to those gay clubs, and now they're closing them. They were attached to the gay clubs. It's called Central Station in Moscow, and there is also one in St. Petersburg. I went to the one in St. Petersburg a couple of times. And you could see when they started this, obviously, there was nothing before. I mean, but then it started the fear of people going to the clubs.
Because they would raid them.
They will raid them, not so much raid them, but the people, the non-gay people were harassing people going in. I remember going into the club the last time I was there, and right across the street was like it was scary because it was like a skinhead kind of club right across from the gay club. And then you were coming in and people were like giving you a hard time.
Oh my goodness. And imagine those people now that those places are closed and you don't even have, I mean, first of all, that space is not even safe for them, yet they still take the chance. That's how much they just want to be authentically themselves, that they would take that chance and go to this club. You know, we don't appreciate what we have. I'm just saying.
And look, he started that around the time they invaded Crimea.
Right.
So this is how it started. So you create this kind of let's protect our children or whatever, you know, so that you start riling up your base and people that, you know,
the Karens of the world start joining you.
Right.
I just never thought like Russia and LGBTQ plus would really work in the same sentence in a nice way. You know, like it's just like I don't know so much history, but I know enough that I know that Russia does not feel like a safe place to be holding a hand of my lover.
Oh, it's not.
You know,
it's not. On the streets, it's scary. I remember. It was very scary.
And that's back then, so imagine now it must be even worse.
I feel like I always want to think about the kind of moments of encouragement, and I feel like but like the people, the defiant voices within Russia who are really, like there are lots. And like I keep thinking, I just saw this incredible exhibition. I was in Montreal for work of Pussy Riot, this feminist collective that's incredibly queer in its origins, that has been really protesting, right, and at massive risk to their health, to their
well-being,
right, to really attack the politics of LGBTQ exclusion, of discrimination, of feminist collective, of dictatorship, of authoritarianism, of censorship. Like that there are so many, and I take so much inspiration from those kind of feminist collectives that are doing so much work for all of us, because that is like, in that way, right, we can see shared histories and shared moments of you know, camaraderie.
If you want to understand a lot of what's happening with the LGBTQ community in Russia, in all Russia, there is a wonderful documentary called Welcome to Chechnya.
Okay.
I've heard of that.
It came out a few years ago, or it won awards. Very, very good. You understand how it was only confined to Chechnya at that point, but a lot of people have to leave and leave Russia and move, and now they basically made the documentary from outside of Russia, but they had connections within the gay community in Russia. It's amazing. It tells you how this all started up many years ago, and now they're cracking it up.
Yeah.
You know, now this is like in full force now.
Yeah.
So it's not confined to Chechnya anymore. So now it's the whole country, and a lot of people are going to be leaving Russia, unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for our gay brothers and sisters in Russia. It's very difficult for them to migrate at this point. Nobody
really
wants to.
Nobody wants to let them in.
They're closing borders, so they can't go to Finland. They could before, now they can't.
They can't.
So it's very difficult. They're basically trapped there. So
wow. Well, our thoughts go out to all those LGBTQ plus folks out there in Russia, because again, we still exist. We're everywhere.
That's exactly.
Okay, you may try to silence us, but our voices are loud no matter what. Kal, what's next?
We are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up politics. Michigan Governor Whitmer announces new state LGBTQ plus commission. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer announced the members of a new commission designed to advise the governor and others on affairs directly impacting the LGBTQ plus community. Whitmer created the LGBTQ plus commission in June via Executive Order 2023-5 as an advisory board with the Department of Labor and Education Opportunity. It is charged with reviewing the practices of government to ensure it meets the needs of the entire spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community. Raul Hernandez Guzman, an academic and LGBTQ plus advocate and volunteer, will serve as the commission's first administrator. LGBTQ plus advocates have hailed this announcement and the work of Whitmer and others to bolster support for the LGBTQ plus community.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up health. Remember AIDS 1990? Fauci says today's anti-gay attitude is as bad as he has ever seen in the USA. The Advocate's John Casey interviewed well-known physician scientist and immunologist Dr. Fauci on the occasion of World AIDS Day. In Dr. Anthony Fauci's view, we have come a long way since the first World AIDS Day 35 years ago in terms of implementing awareness and treatment tools to fight HIV and AIDS that make it eminently possible for us to end the outbreak by 2030. However, he also sees that progress is threatened by the rise of the extreme right. He is concerned about the resurgence of the anti-LGBTQ plus movement in this country. He said, quote, "The attitude is reverting to the way it was 40 years ago, and it is terrible," end quote.
In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up Hotspots. New Hotspots magazine celebrates South Florida's queer holidays. Holidays are here, and South Florida, being one of the gayest places on the earth, is all set to celebrate the season by hosting a range of queer events and parties. From Drag Queen Christmas to queer getaways, the new and upcoming Hotspots magazine will have everything you need to know about South Florida's queer holidays. The new issue will be on stands this Thursday. Grab your free copy right now.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up politics. Fox, Hannity, DeSantis, and Newsom debate as to demean and humiliate. Republican presidential hopeful Ron DeSantis and California Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom went head-to-head in a public debate hosted by Fox News' Sean Hannity, where Newsom blasted the Florida governor over his anti-LGBTQ plus laws. The debate saw the pair spar with each other and call each other a bully whilst arguing over tax, immigration, crime, and LGBTQ plus policies. Newsom blasted DeSantis for using education as a sword for your cultural purge, end quote. He said DeSantis, quote, demeans and humiliates people and the LGBTQ plus community, end quote. Newsom also blasted DeSantis' abortion bills, calling them, quote, the most extreme in America, end quote. To which he responded that he believes in the culture of life.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up Hotspots. Hotspots Happening Out celebrates 8 crazy nights of Hanukkah at USA's only LGBTQ plus art gallery. Hotspots is set to celebrate all 8 days of Hanukkah in the LGBTQ plus art gallery. Hotspots Happening Out art gallery with Dennis Dean. The celebration will take place on the actual days of Hanukkah from December 7th to the 15th. The gallery has partnered with the LGBTQ plus Jewish congregation Et Haim and the Jewish Federation of Broward County to present this event. Et Haim will host 2 of the 8 days. Named the Festival of Lights, their first event will occur on the first day of Hanukkah, December 7th, and their second event will occur on the third day of Hanukkah, December 9th. The Jewish Federation of Broward County will host their event on December the 12th. Both events are free and open to the public. That's it for today's news for the LGBTQ+. I caught myself off guard. News for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, FayWhat? And on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Kal Gajraj, Dino Mosquera, DJ Eric Restivo, and Dr. Julio Capo Jr., we will see you daily at 8 p.m. into our LGBTQ plus world. We wish you
Good night.
Good night.